All right. Hi, everybody. So we are back and we're going to start in our next layer. We're going to be putting in our flowers. And I'm so sorry, this ran 23 minutes. I guess I just get so into what I'm doing. I know that a 23-minute long video would just be way too large of a file to upload. So I had to speed it up and add this voiceover. So we're loading up our palette with quinacridone magenta, quinacridone violet, Australian sienna, or you could use raw sienna, and white. And I'm looking at my reference and observing what are the characteristics of my hollyhocks that I want to make sure I incorporate into this painting. And so one of the things is it's kind of cool that the flowers are all pointing right at us and they seem to grow in clusters, and there's a lot of little pods at the top. I love those pods. And they're not really round, the flowers. They are kind of round, but really they're misshapen. They have different edges to them. They've got a dark center with a stamen that sticks out. So I'm just going to, kind of draw in the plan on where my hollyhocks are going to be. And that's what I'm doing with white school chalk. The nice thing about, using white school chalk is that I can wipe it off later on after my paint is dry. Those two things look too similar. That's what I'm saying there. So I wiped one off and fixed it. So you always want variety. You don't want to make all of your hollyhock flowers the same shape or the same size. So that's what I caught myself there doing. And, you might need to kind of draw your stalks back in. That's totally fine. Figure out where your clusters of hollyhocks are going to be. And let's see. I decided that I am going to do these 3 different colors, white, pink, and magenta hollyhocks, but I'm not going to paint it exactly like my reference photo. You can totally decide how you want to do yours. Check it out. Google Google hollyhocks and get yourself a few different references because, wow, they come in quite a variety of colors. I saw some really beautiful burgundy centered ones, like really deep burgundy. Maybe you want to paint those instead of the way I'm doing them. It's totally up to you. You can make yours look real graphic and round. I'm going to try to make mine look a little bit like papery on the edges. You'll see that that's what I'm trying to do in a few minutes. I don't know that I really accomplished that, but that's the fun of this. We're exploring. We're gonna try different things. So here we go. I am using. I think this is like about a 1/2-inch flat brush, and this is a 16 by 20 canvas. So that seemed to be a big enough brush for me. Probably that's even big enough, even if you're going on a really, really, really large canvas, but maybe not. Maybe you're going to want a 1-inch wide brush if you're doing a 30 by 30. It's, try different sizes and use the largest size brush that you can so that it's loose and fresh. Remember, this is a garden. It's, gardens are not perfect and flowers are not perfect. And a hollyhock is a casual garden flower, so that's why this is such a fun subject. So anyway, I am going around, blocking in my bright magenta ones. I'm trying to get different sizes. I'm trying to get that papery edge. Now notice these are going to be much less, I don't think about those as much. My center of interest, as you know, is going to be in that upper left portion. So make the other flowers not as, perfect. Well, they're not perfect anyway, but you know what I mean. Let them be really loose and misshapen. All right, so now and this is the other thing, you always want to kind of vary your colors a little bit too. So here we're going to start in with the paler pink flowers, and I just mixed titanium white with just a little bit of quinacridone magenta this time. And you could even add a hint of your yellow if you wanted to. So just going around, painting those in. Here I left the center green, and I kind of liked that look. That's another technique. You could leave your background green showing through like that, paint around and leave it, or you can come back in and add a darker center later. You know, see what you like, or do a variety. I'm using that same light color on my magenta hollyhocks just to get more form and more interest. Notice how I'm holding the brush. I don't have a ton of control, you know, this way, and that's on purpose. Don't hold the brush like you're drawing with a pencil. You want it loose. All right, so now I'm just mixing up another color. These are going to be my white hollyhocks, and so, you know, we always paint dark to light with acrylics, and so my darker version of a white flower would be a little more on the yellow side. So I used that Australian sienna with white, and remember, I'm going to come back in with more of a white on my next pass. But this is almost like my mid-tone of the white flower. I decided to use that same color for the center stamens on the other flowers because it is that color, that value. So I'm walking that around, and then I also added some of that darker golden yellow around some of the stamens. And you know, this is so much fun, just quick little pieces of color that we're adding here and there. Just, you know, load your brush, lay that little piece of color down, and move on. Paint freely like this. You'll have so much more fun. So then I'm noticing there's a darker value or like a muted grayer tone in my white flowers, and that's what I'm mixing up now. I added just a little bit of coolness by adding some green and some phthalo blue and a little bit of burnt sienna, so it's not too vivid of a color. You know, when you add a complement, you're going to mute the color back down again, and it's very subtle, but it is you know, a shadow color for my white flowers. So I'm putting that in, and then I'm using that color to be the pods that you see on the tops of the stalks, and I'm having fun dotting those in. And then I'm also using that color on the stalks themselves. Now I'm not going to use that all over the place because it would just be too much, I think. So use that a little bit where you really want attention, because you notice it really brings a lot of attention, that color. One thing you can do, you can always come back in and put a glaze over a color that is too light. Keep that in mind too, which I might do that. I might come back in with a glaze of sap green on some of those stems or stalks. And so I'm just continuing to put that color here and there. So notice that we've got darks, mid-tones, and now when you add the lights, it just really starts to sing. You know, that variety is what makes it work. There's some muted colors and there's some vivid colors. And all of that is what works together to, you know, to make it look really nice. I'm splattering, you know me, I love my splatters. You just got to add quite a bit of water to get it to splatter. I'm even putting some green in the center stamens here and there. You know, and you could even mix up a slightly different green at this point and walk that color around, you know, if you wanted to. I think I might even add some teal green at the end, you know, my really pretty teal green from Golden. Let's see, what else? I decided to soften those leaves right there because it was just, I don't know, it was commanding too much attention. So the best way to fix a problem like that is to, I mean, it was still wet enough that I could just add some water to my brush and kind of, you know, sweep over it real quick, let it drip, and then I wiped it off where I didn't want it on the flower. And then I came back in and painted back into that area with mid-tone and a dark. So that's what's great about this. There are no mistakes. You can always come back in and paint over areas you don't like. So now this is where you're going to create your contrast. So I'm using black and brown. It's a pretty dark color. And I'm deciding where I really want to make flowers pop more by painting the background just a little bit darker. And I'm not going to do this dark of a color all over the painting, only where I really want to draw attention, you know, the focal point and near the focal point. Rinsing out my brush now, taking a look, deciding what I want to do next. I think we're pretty good, so don't overdo it. Stop before you think you filled it up too much, and that's it for this step.